Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to another edition of Chatting with the Rev. Today we're going to be dealing with the policies and the procedures and the ideas and plans that the Trump administration has for people with physical, developmental, and mental challenges. You know, we're in the second week today. We're in the second week of the Trump administration. He's sent up all the nominees for the various offices in his cabinet and other offices as well. He has equaled the amount of executive orders given under this short of a time since Barack Obama did it himself back when he was president. He has just as many executive orders as the president did, former president rather, did when he came into office back there in 2008. And we've heard a lot about these, but I'm going to tell you the truth. Unlike Obama, some of these actions are sweeping actions, if you will. Some of the newer ones, of course, we know that some of the actions he's taken, he has nominated the person that he wants to sit in on the Supreme Court, the 9th position on the Supreme Court. He's nominated Judge Neil Gorsuch, and he is a 49-year-old judge who sat on the appeals court and other courts of the land. He has been nominated to serve as our 9th Supreme Court Justice for the United States of America. Of course, as all the other nominees, he too must go through the process of confirmation through the United States Senate. But we do have the person who's going to be reviewed and looked at and screened and questioned about his constitutional beliefs, what he's done as a judge, how he's ruled, what he's ruled on. We know that he is a conservative, as is not surprising, as is every nominee that has already been offered up. And we know that he's been a consistent jurist, if you will. But our eyes are on him. I'm sure there'll be more brought up at the confirmation hearings that he will be a part of about his background, and we're going to keep an eye on him. Good afternoon to my wife, Teresa, Evangelist Lady T. God bless you for being with us this afternoon, and all of those who are with us as well. Thank you for stopping by. So we're looking at him. We know that President Trump has also fired the Assistant Attorney General, who she refused to follow up on his new order in terms of immigrants and the banning and the pausing of their influx. We know some of the courts have also ruled some of that policy down. We're going to watch that very closely, what this immigration situation will be and how the effects of all of that will be as well. We know there's been a lot of protesting. Just on last Tuesday, January the 31st, a group came from Philadelphia and the surrounding areas to go to Washington and to see Senator Toomey and other senators on the Medicaid question, and 50 of them were arrested. 50 of them were arrested, from home care providers to clergy, even people that were in wheelchairs. They were arrested, and they were actually released soon thereafter. But they were arrested and taken out of the United States Senate building as they were protesting, sitting in, really disrupting, in a nonviolent way, but still verbally they were disrupting the proceedings, and so they removed them. But it's showing the energy that many people in this nation, in fact, everyone in this nation on one level or another, but there are some that really are taking, I think, the proper approach. And that is addressing these issues, not just to President Trump, but also to the Congress, the senators, the 100 senators, the 435 congresspersons that sit on Capitol Hill that make the laws. So there's only a little bit that the executive orders can do. An executive order cannot override a law. Let me make that perfectly clear, and let me say that again. An executive order by the president cannot override a law. It can take certain portions of that law, tweak it a little bit, But for that law to be repealed, for that law to be amended, it will take the action of either the Senate, the House of Representatives, or a combination of both to actually repeal, change, or amend a law. So some of these policies, even some of the policies that President Trump has taken, in order for them to be fully realized, for example, Obamacare or the Affordable Care Act, for it to be totally repealed, it's going to take an act of Congress. And we know that Congress is, with a majority Republican leadership, is moving in that direction. Many people feel as though President Trump is not going to actually totally eradicate Medicaid, but he is going to impact it and change it enough that it's going to impact the lives of millions upon millions of low-income Americans and those who have physical, developmental, and mental challenges. Nearly 73 million Americans are on Medicaid. 73 million Americans are on Medicaid or the related Children's Health Insurance Program, which is what we call CHIP. Many of you have seen commercials about CHIP. Between these two entitlement programs, we already mentioned the entitlement programs. An entitlement program simply is a program that helps relieve the condition of low-income Americans. But these programs are going to be impacted, in particular Medicaid. 73 million are already on Medicaid. It's going to be a great reduction, let me tell you. It's going to be a great reduction of persons on Medicaid in the future if what goes on, what's going to be proposed will be carried out. Now, I'm going to tell you, like I said before, no law is made in a vacuum. One thing I'll say about President Trump and now the Republican leadership is they're very transparent in what their aims and ambitions are. They're very transparent. They're not hiding anything. Many of the things that President Trump is now doing, he alluded to it when he was running for president, even during the primaries, let alone the campaign between the two candidates, Hillary and himself. Many of these things that he's now doing, he already said, if you elect me, I'm going to do them. But some of these things that he is proposing and that the Congress is leaning toward themselves, because you know the Congress has been talking about, they fought tooth and nail Obamacare even being passed in the first place. It took Obama a whole, his first 4 years and a little part of his second term to get this thing even done. So they fought it tooth and nail. And even then they said, if we get in the White House, then we're going to repeal it, dismantle it, and put it through the paper shredder. But they're doing all that they can. They're leery. Why are they leery? Why haven't they moved as quickly as they would like to? Because the American people have really rose up about this. There's been such an outcry. And now they're going into the Capitol building themselves. It's not just limited to marching up and down the streets of the cities within this nation and the hamlets within this nation. They're going into the Capitol Hall, itself. That's how you get things done in this country. You have to put pressure on the government, not just the president, but every governmental agency, in particular, the Congress. As I've said before, and I'll repeat it, this is a three-branch government. Executive branch, which is governed by, or at least led by, the president. The legislative branch, which is led by the House of Representative members and the Senate members. And then you have the judicial branch, whose most powerful organ is the United States Supreme Court. Now, as citizens, we don't have much direct impact on the judicial system or the judges that sit on the Supreme Court. They are nominated by the president and they're confirmed by the Senate. However, we do have power in who and about who becomes president, and we sure enough have power, direct power, in who becomes senators and congresspersons in our particular state and ultimately in the nation. We have power to do that. To me, it's still a travesty. It still boggles my mind that the Republicans went back in the leadership role within both the House of Representatives and the Senate. After all of the complaints about how they were stonewalling Obama's plans, how they were stonewalling his programs, how they drug their feet, how they made things even tougher for him to fulfill many of the promises he made, and that we still allowed them to go back into the House of Representatives, back into the Senate, and remain the majority party in both of those houses of Congress. It still boggles my mind. Virtually every day of the 8-year term of Obama, I've been hearing people saying that they're going to make this a Democratic majority again. They're going to put the Democrats in the majority so that Obama will have the muscle to do some things he wants to do. But each time in 2012, when he ran his second term, that's when they got the power to become the majority party. And then here we are in 2016. They maintained their majority status. 2018 is coming up. In 1 year, we're going to have what they call the midterm elections. 435, virtually, in fact, literally all of the congresspersons will be up for re-election. You can either put them back in or you can take them out. Good afternoon, Mary Harper. How you doing, dear? We can either put them back in 2018 or we can take them out. All 235 congresspersons are up for re-election. What are you going to do? What are we going to do? Are you going to register to vote? Those who haven't voted. Are you going to vote against those persons that you know are making bills and proposals and plans to do everything they can to thwart your life and to interfere with your life and to impede the progress that you want to make in life? We're going to put them back in again? You already did it in 2016. We get another chance in 2018. What are you going to do? Sit home? Remain unregistered? I tell you all the time, I'm going to say it again until it gets into your mind, that Congress is unlike the presidency. There is no electoral college that determines who our senators and our congresspersons will be. They are directly put into office by the people. We can determine who becomes a senator of our states, who become congresspersons in our states. We can determine that directly. What are we going to do? People have been saying ever since George W. Bush was elected president in 2000, when he became president through, once again, the Electoral College. People have been saying that they're going to dismantle, repeal, force the Congress to repeal the Electoral College system. Here we are 16 years later. Bush served 2 terms. Obama served 2 terms. And Trump was elected through the Electoral College system, the same as George W. Bush was the first time he ran. The system is still in place. We have to stop crying wolf for a little while and do something besides cry wolf. We got to begin to act on things that we find are not in our best interest. Everybody says now we are sophisticated, we have internet, we have telephone, we have wire service, we know what's happening all around the world. We certainly know about every candidate. All you got to do is Google their name. You'll find out where they were born, what school they went to, what kind of policies they hold, what they've done in life, how they voted in Congress if they were congresspersons, how they voted as governors if they were governors, how they lived as people. By just turning on the TV, turning on the radio, getting on your internet service, and Googling their name, you can find out everything about them. who their mother was, where they were born, what country their mother and father were born in. Years ago, you wouldn't know that Trump's mother was born in Scotland, but we know it now. It's easy to find out. Find out about the records of your senators over the many years that they've been serving. Find out the records of your record of your congressperson, the many years they've been serving. Some of those guys been in office for 40, 50 years. If they're not corrupt, they're so antiquated with their ideas that they can't move the country forward. You've been in for 40, 50 years. You were in there during the 60s and early and late 50s. Now, what new idea and what new thought can you really bring to the Congress that will move this nation forward and move us away from the era of bigotry and prejudice and bias? We have to start looking at things as they really are and take the necessary action. Remember Dr. Martin Luther King and the Civil Rights Movement, Rosa Parks, when she was pulled off that bus in Birmingham, Alabama, because she refused to sit in the back. She was already sitting near to the front, and they pulled her off because there was a white person that wanted to sit there, and they put her off, and they put her off the bus eventually because she resisted it and jailed her. What was the response? It wasn't picketing the jailhouse, though they did that too. But the ultimate thing that they did was they boycotted the whole bus line. Not just for a month, not just for a week, not just for half a year. They boycotted that for over a year. It was over 365 days. I think it was 380 plus days that they boycotted. The people that used the bus, instead of using the bus, they walked to work. Or they carpooled to work. Or they didn't go to work at all. To stand in unity against the bias of that bus company. They stood so strong and they stood so long that the bus company had to acquiesce and yield to the demands made by those who are part of that movement. One thing to protest, one thing to march, but you have to have a broader program. You have to have a strategy, a plan. Now here we are in 2016. The nation is, a good portion of the nation, more than half of the nation, I can say that without fear of contradiction, are really upset and confused. Hello, John. John says, we have to do this to bring change. We have to do it if you want to change. My thing is, if you do nothing and there is no change, then don't expect there to be a change. You have to do something to affect change. Change doesn't happen. Something that's been the rule of law or the rule of action for decades and scores and even centuries is not going to yield because you stand up there with a sign. You have to make change happen for there to be a change. You have to force the issue. First, legislatively. Because attitudes are hard to change. You know, that's the problem we are in now. See, we got a lot of people still living in the 30s, 40s, and Jim Crow era. And I don't mean their age, I mean their mentality. They still got that Jim Crow mentality. They still have that disabled folk need to be an institution mentality. They still have that women are still second-class citizen mentality. They still have that mentality that women should be barefoot and pregnant, fixing dinner for their man. And if they do work, don't expect the same kind of pay that a man gets. People with disabilities, people who have challenged abilities, they're supposed to be complacent and happy and docile and stay in your place, which is in an institution or in your bedroom or in your house. Get out of our way. We don't want to deal with you. That mentality of years ago. See, attitudes don't change as easy as laws do. Laws change with a stroke of a pen. Attitudes take a long while to change. But when you can change the laws, what it does is it changes the direction of where the nation is going to go. It may not change your attitude, but we have recourse now when you do those prejudicial, ableistic, or racial things that you do. We have a recourse now because you're doing something against the law. When there's no law in place, then your attitude dictates how I'm treated or how others are treated. Whether it's because of your gender, whether it's because of your skin color, or whether it's because of your ability or disability, you are dictated to and are treated according to the attitude of those who are dealing with you. But when you have the law on your side, you think all the Jim Crow folk died when in 64 when the Civil Rights Law was enacted? No. Many of those, that same mindset, and even some folk are still around today. That's right. My mother and Martin Luther King are the same age. And there are a lot of people my mother's age that are still alive. So, you only talk about the 40s, 50s, and 60s. So many of the persons that were born during that era are still here with their same bigoted, same prejudicial, same limited, narrow-minded disposition, attitudes, and actions. I was just on a program just a moment ago. About an hour ago, I was on the program. And I was telling them, it's all about attitude. People need to have something to guide them. Even religion, you have to have a set of laws. 10 Commandments or a Humarati law or something. You have to have some guideline that will dictate the actions of people towards other people. John Mark Hauser said, people in this generation are afraid of change, differently abled. America has to make a decision to stand for itself, because if we don't start it, we'll be too late. It will be too late. I would say that about every group, but in particular our group, because we've been so docile, so passive. People do things to it. I read something today, and somebody was saying, well, it's not as bad as, I know there's people out there that are suffering, but it ain't that bad. I said, what are you talking about? To me, if anybody is treated badly, then all of us are subject to be treated badly. Murder started with one brother killing another brother. Only one murder. That's how it started. But then when murder began to be a part of life, then people were starting to kill each other. So you may escape the persecution today. You may escape it tomorrow. They may treat you okay when you get on the bus. They may treat you okay when you try for a job opportunity. They may treat you okay when you deal with the public in certain areas. But let me tell you, if you live long enough, you're going to have to deal with some of this bias. You're going to have to deal with some of this prejudice. And whether you live with it or not, don't you care about your brothers and your sisters who are living in such a way that they are being discriminated against, they're being treated with prejudice and bias and stereotypical, ignorant, really, attitudes? You may live okay, but there are many, the most of the people that are 1 out of 3 person with a challenged ability lives in poverty. 50% of the police brutality cases are against people with mental and developmental challenges and physical. 50%. We don't make up 50% of the population. We make up about 14 to 15%, but 15% or 14%, but 50%. Hello, Judy, how you doing? Experience some kind of violent action against them. Robert, how you feel? Robert says, people don't understand the bias and ableism we see, but are quick to say, get over it. Oh, my Lord. As an African American who has a disability, I've been told that many a time. Get over it. African American, I've been told, well, slavery way back then, get over it. No, we're not slaves anymore. Many of my family, I was looking at one of my cousins now here, many of our family were not slaves at all. If we were, there's no recorded history of it. But then we were biased, prejudiced. I know when I used to go to school, I had to go through 2-3 towns to get to where my school was because I couldn't go to the other schools. So no, may not have been blatant, it may not have been overt, but it certainly was obvious. I've been called the N-word, not just by my homies. My cousin Judy says, it's easy for people to say, get over it, until the shoe is on the other foot. And that's true. Oh, yeah, it's easy to say, oh, don't worry about it, Oh, they won't let you on the bus because of your challenged ability. They won't they'll get over it, just wait for the next one. Judy says she sees racism every day. Every day. I see racism, I see ableism every day. I've had to experience these things. I'm a child of the 50s, so I've seen a lot of racism. Child of the 60s, I've seen a whole lot of racism. And I've seen ableism, people mocking me, making fun of me because of the way I walk. People acting as though I don't even exist. Talking to the able-bodied person that's with me as if I can't answer whether I want a hot dog or whether I want a hamburger for lunch. They'll ask somebody else, what does he want? I've been overlooked on jobs because of my skin color. So I've seen it from all kinds of angles. The prejudices of men. And the ironic part about it all is we're all in the same boat. We don't even realize that. Because the 1%ers, the ones that actually do run this country, and they don't sit in the White House, and they don't sit on Capitol Hill. The ones who actually run this company, it is like a company, this country, are those 1%ers. The elite, the creme de la creme, that run this country, that move and shake the movers and shakers. They look at us, they just laugh. John says ableism is worse than cancer. That's somewhat of a paradox right there, isn't it? Because cancer does leave you disabled as well. But the movers and shakers look at us and laugh and say, look, they're fighting each other. The Women's March, just a couple of Saturdays ago, was sponsored mainly by women who are pro-choicers. And they refuse to allow other women who are pro-lifers to be a part of the movement. Except if they would get off of their position of being pro-lifers and become pro-choicers. But the weird part about it is when your employer pays you your weekly salary, he's going to pay the woman less in many instances, and he don't care whether you're pro-lifer or pro-choicer. You're a woman. So he's going to pay you both the same kind of wage, which is less than a man. My cousin says, I work in a white neighborhood where I have to be polite in the doctor's office. And I will greet them and I will get the dirtiest looks from people. So dirty that I find myself wanting to show, and then she, ... I got to know what that T ... is, but she wants to show herself. It does get on, it does bother you. It does bother you. So, and I'm going to tell you the truth, we who are African Americans, and we who are, because I fit in both categories, we who are challenged physically, developmentally, and mentally should be able to join forces together for we've had the same experience. Many times, I'm going to be honest with you, many of the worst ableistic attitudes I've ever had have been through people who are my color, African American. Many times. That we should be able to join hands. There should be no division amongst us. We're not each other's enemies. We all are trying to get something better in life. We all are trying to move up that ladder called prosperity. We're all trying to make a life for our family and for our children and our grandchildren and our posterity. We all want that. And yet we always are at each other's throats. And the ones who have all of the power, all the prestige, all the pomp and circumstance, all of what they need, look down on us and they say, keep on fighting, because as long as you're fighting each other, nobody will ever get up on top. Cousin says, we're like crabs in a barrel. That's right. We fight each other. As somebody's trying to climb up, I'll pull you back down. Instead of helping you up. Don't even help each other when it comes to supporting each other in terms of businesses and stuff. I'm going to never be a big business because I don't get the support of a big business. That's why Walmart can charge less than, I'm just saying that as, I'm not saying anything about Walmart, but what I'm saying is, which I could say something about Walmart, but nevertheless, they can charge less because their customers are many more. So your little mom and pop store, he's charging astronomical prices because nobody but 5 people come in a day. I got to charge more for bread than Walmart. When they got 1,000 coming in one day, I got 5. I can't charge the reasonable price because Walmart serves more people. But once we begin to understand that we can have what Mr. Walmart has, I know that's not his name. It leaves me right now. I didn't know his name, but I forget what it is. But the people that run Walmart, the people that run these banks, the people that run the big businesses, the 500 businesses and all that, these people are the ones that keep us at odds with one another. And we're so busy fighting amongst ourselves, we never can see the reality of it. People in Mississippi don't have nothing. Whites just like blacks have nothing. And they can't stand the black man. And they can't get along with this race and that race. I know even within the disability community, there are people that are prejudiced against black people, but against me, they're my own community. There's prejudice there. There's bias there. People, we have to wake up. And I'm going to tell you the truth, if we allow it to be, this Trump thing could be the one thing, if we look at it right and stop our little pettiness, can be the one thing that can unite all of us. Let me tell you something. If he cuts out Medicaid or hampers with Medicaid enough, and I say he, I don't mean Trump, but I mean all the Republicans that are in the leadership roles from Congress to the White House. If they impact it enough and turn it around enough and leave it to the governors and leave it to the states enough, it's not only going to be us, because we're not the only ones in the 73 million. I told you all together we're only 60 million. So you're talking about there's 73 million that's on that receive Medicaid benefits. Millions and millions of more, about 100 million that receive Social Security and Medicare. You may have about 150 million people, close to 200 million, that'll be affected if these entitlement programs are hampered enough and tampered with enough. And that's going to cross every race, every physical condition, every religion, every nationality. It's going to impact all of us. John says, and I agree completely, he says, first of all, when you start a movement, You cannot restrict people because of their position. It has to be a social mechanism for change. You have to see the common ground that you stand on and defend it together against the foreign enemy, against the enemy on the outside. The civil rights movement could not have been effective if only African Americans were leading the charge. There had to be some kind of help from other people that saw the cause and its worthiness, and saw the cause of injustice, and joined hands, realizing that injustice for you will ultimately mean injustice for me. When Nazi Germany came to power, Hitler hated the Jews, but he hated people that had disabilities as well. And so he tried it out on the disabled people first. He began his experiments with disabled folk first, taking twins and seeing how come they're twins. And that's what he did next. So he took those who were infirm, those who he considered freaks, those he considered misfits, those he considered crippled, those he considered handicapped, those he considered feeble-minded. He experimented on them and executed them and killed them off. Then he started taking twins and other multi-birth children and started experimenting with them and seeing how there are twins and how much are they alike and all of that. Then ultimately, he went to the group he hated most of all, or just as much, the Jews, and he killed 6 million of them. He didn't stop at that. He went on to kill 9 million Russians. Tried to take over the whole world. But you start off, and if you ever look at history, the group that they start off with always are people who are physical, developmental, and mental challenges. They are the first targets of abuse. They are the first targets of annihilation, extermination, and genocide. Why? Because they're the least desirable in the population. Nobody wants them around. They're excluded. They're omitted. They're forgotten. They're thrown into the institution. Nobody ever visits them. In fact, there used to be a time when you had a mental disorder, schizophrenia, paranoia, or the like, they would throw you into a place like Bedlam, and they would sell tickets to people as if it was like a zoo, and people would come and laugh at you as you did what you did, defecate on yourself or act crazy, quote unquote. People would buy tickets, be entertained. Others who had physical challenges, like the Elephant Man and other freaks, will be put into the carnivals, into the side shows, and the state fairs, so people can buy tickets and laugh at you and make fun of you. Nobody accepted you within society. They loved John Merrick, the Elephant Man, as he grimaced and as he moved with his gait and as he moved with his disability. They loved it in the carnival. But when he got on the street, everybody ran for cover. The monster's on his way. The monster's coming. Laughed at him, mocked at him, ran from him. Didn't want him around then. Treated him all different kind of cruel and unusual ways, beating him and all this type of thing. The first targets of society have always been people with physical, developmental, and mental challenges. They're the most defenseless, people think, and in many instances that's true. If you're in a wheelchair, there's not much you can do if you have a developmental issue, Down syndrome or the like. If you have a mental situation, paranoia, people are going to, treat you cruelly. Then, what we have to remember, once they get through with them, then they begin to turn to you. Eugenics, which is perpetuating the strongest amongst us, the survival of the fittest. started with sterilizing of people that were developmentally challenged, Down syndrome, what they used to call Mongoloism. We don't use that word, it's a derogatory word, but that's what they used in those days. Imbeciles, morons. Started with them. Sterilize them. We don't want no other children coming out like that. Sterilize them. People that had severe physical disabilities, cerebral palsy. Sterilize those women. They don't need to have those babies. Sterilize them. But you know what eventually would happen? Eventually black women began to be sterilized. So we don't want them to outnumber us. We don't want them to, that little inferior mentality that they have. We don't want them to interact with us and maybe even have interbreeding with us and taint our posterity. So sterilize them women. Start out with people who had developmental issues, physical challenges. Eventually went to a race. That's how it is. Evil, hatred, intolerance, prejudice, bias, all need to feed on a new victim. Once we've conquered this victim and overpowers this victim, and this victim becomes less powerful and less impressive to hurt, then I turn to another group and do the same to them. John Mark said he suffers from both physical and mental challenges, and it's not fun. No, it's not fun. And the greatest disability is not our disabilities. The greatest challenge is not our challenges. It's the attitudes of other people in society. The nominee for Secretary of Education didn't even know what the program of IDEA is all about. Did he know nothing about that? He talking about you're going to be the Secretary of Education, not on Arthur. Secretary of Education now. Education Secretary. And you don't even know what the IDEA program is all about? You don't even know you never heard of it before? I'm going to tell you something there, Hearts. This world's getting crazy. This girl's getting crazy. During the hearings this past Tuesday, Betty DeVos, who was up for to become the Secretary of Education, was asked, what should she do? Her comments on special education, it says, left lawmakers questioning her knowledge of the needs of students with disabilities and their rights under the law. Now, she'll be the Secretary of Education. Senator Tim Kaine, you remember Tim Kaine, he ran with Hillary Clinton for the office of Vice President. He's a Democratic senator from Virginia. He says this, I think that it matters that's best left to the states. That's how she answered. When he asked, what should we do with the IDEA program? She said, I think it's best left up to the states. And Kaine says, well, the states had nothing to do with it. This is a federal program. It would be in your domain, not the state's domain. She's repeated again. Well, I think it's an issue that's best left to the states. The senator from New Hampshire, who has a son with cerebral palsy, said to her, again, it's a federal civil rights law. So do you stand by your statement a few minutes ago that it should be up to the states whether to follow it or not? She said federal laws must be followed where federal dollars are in play. Here's a woman who don't even know what that is. This is to safeguard children with special disabilities, with special needs. They call them special needs children. Now, everybody who has a special need does not qualify for the IDEA program. I looked it up and I saw, I wanted to see exactly who's eligible, because when I saw it said that, and I read something on it earlier, I guess last week sometime about it, and I wondered what qualifies for eligibility. And it says those who have autism, those who are deaf and blind, those who have emotional disturbances, hearing impairments, intellectual disability, multi-disabilities, orthopedic impairments, health impairments, which includes ADHD, dyslexia, speech or language impairment, traumatic brain injury. These are those that automatically qualify. If, for instance, a student has ADHD but is doing well in school, he might not be covered by IDEA. So if you're functional and can keep up with your class, and both academically and physically, though you may have a disability, you would not qualify for IDEA. But if you have a disability or challenged ability that does impact how you can learn, how you can move, how you can navigate yourself from one place to another and have to stay in a particular room under a particular care, you would be qualified for this. She's saying, I don't know nothing about the program. And how can you be ahead of the agency, since it's a federal government position? Cabinet member of the United States president is a cabinet position. It's a federal office job. But once again, now other things she knows all about, charter schools, she knows all about private schools, she knows all about the voucher system, but she don't know much about children with physical challenges and the programs that support them. Once again, we're marginalized. We're ignored. We're excluded. We're not considered. And I'm going to tell you something, those who may have someone in their family, know of someone in their neighborhood or someone in their church or somewhere in their life, or you yourself may be yourself have a challenged ability. Let me tell you, some of the things that are being proposed will impact us more than any other group. Will impact us more than any other group, bar none. We better keep our eyes on what's going on in this nation, in this government, all three branches of government. I want to know how the judges interpret some of these proposed laws and some of these things that will become law. I want to see how they interpret it. I want to see what laws the lawmakers make, and I want to see what laws the president proposes, or what bills the president proposes. I want to see it. And I think we need to start getting ourselves right now ready with a strategy to formulate programs and strategies that will begin petitioning, calling, writing our legislators. Don't know who your congressperson is? Find out, go to the internet, you find out about everything else on the internet. The most ridiculous things I see on the internet, on Facebook and other social media pages, I mean, they're not even important. Even when they're talking about Trump and his family and other things, what you're talking about don't matter to me. I don't care what his wife did when she was younger. I don't care about that. I want to know where this country is going as a nation, how it's going to impact my life. Bringing up something that happened, it's too late to worry about all that now. Obviously, the country did not think it was important enough not to elect him. Here's a man that made fun of two people who had challenged abilities. Right in public, right on the stump of running for president. Television cameras running, and he's making fun of people who have physical disabilities, people who have physical challenges. He's making fun of them, and he still was elected. So I don't want to hear nothing about what his character, we had a time to deal with all that. Obviously, it's not important enough. Now all I want to know about the man is his policies. All I want to know about them congressmen are their policies. He ain't the first one that did what he did or act out how he acts. A lot of them congressmen sitting up there, a lot of those senators sitting up there have very dubious moral character. Let me tell you. So we're going to judge it by all that. Then a lot of people should be gone. A lot of those guys should be gone off of Capitol Hill, just like in the White House. A lot of them should be gone, if that's going to be our measuring stick. If that's going to be our yardstick to measure them and their qualifications and their abilities and whether we want them or not, if we're going to judge it by that, then a lot of them people need to be gone. You'd be surprised who would be left on Capitol Hill as well as the White House if we would go by strictly moral considerations. There'd be a lot of room on Capitol Hill. Many of those 435, if not most of them, will be gone. Most of those 100 senators will be gone, male and female. If we're going by moral character. It's too late for all that now. All them people have been elected. We put them all back in office. And I say we because we didn't do enough to keep them out of office. Now we talk about the Russians. You know, come on, people, come on. Let's get focused. Talk about what divides us. Well, I don't believe in that, and you do, so we can't join forces. Yes, we can. Take Medicaid away, and you're going to see how many people are going to be affected. Pro-lifers, pro-choicers, blacks, whites, Native American, Latino, Asian. Take that away and see what happens. Take away Medicare, see what happens, or alter it significantly enough. Take away Social Security, or alter it significantly enough. Take away those programs and see who's affected. Whether you believe in abortion or not, you're going to be affected. Whether you like black people or not, you're going to be affected. Whether you're crazy about Asians or not, you're going to be affected. We're in this thing together, like it or not. When you talk about a melting pot, that means everybody gets into everybody, all them ingredients, all those races, all those religions, all those people, able and disabled, all of them are put into a one pot. And if you tip over the pot, all of them going to fall out. If you cook the pot too long, it's all going to burn. And the only one that escapes it is the one who's stirring the pot. The 1%ers, they're the ones who stir the pot. We burning. Turn off the heat. No, I ain't ready to turn off yet. We're the ones getting burnt. People who have physical challenges, developmental challenges, mental challenges, I challenge you to become more vocal. Become that squeaky wheel. Become that voice yet to be heard. Stand up together. Whether you have CP, which is cerebral palsy, whether you have epilepsy, whether you're a little person, deaf person, blind person, cystic fibrosis, Parkinson's, multiple sclerosis, muscular dystrophy, cancer, AIDS, no matter what you have, sickle cell, lupus, no matter what you have, we're in this thing together. Schizophrenia, Down syndrome, paranoia, ADHD, dyslexia. No matter what you have, we can fight that battle after a while, but right now we got a common battle. If Medicaid is cut, if Medicaid is altered, if Medicare is cut, if Medicare is altered, everybody, MS, CP, MD, CF, epilepsy, lupus, little person, giant, blind, deaf, mute, doesn't matter. Tourette syndrome, whatever your condition may be, you're going to be impacted by the decision. And more than that. Black, white, able-bodied, unable-bodied. Doesn't matter. It's going to trickle down to every one of us. Except those 1%ers and those congressmen that had the best insurance money can buy, and those former presidents that are on salary forever. Other government, the high government officials. I don't mean the average civil servant. I mean the high government officials. They're okay. They'll be okay for the rest of their lives, and so will their children. We're the ones that are in the cesspool of life. We're the ones that's in the barrel. And we're the crabs in that barrel trying to pull each other down. John says, and I concur, we all of different abilities and different disabilities need to stand together for change. Everybody talking about change. Remember, used to be an old song. Everybody talking about heaven ain't going there. Everybody talking about heaven ain't going there. Everybody talking about change. Ain't doing nothing that's going to make a change. You ain't getting there. Nothing's going to change. You may have another look. You may have another name in the White House. Nothing's going to change. Thank you, Lisa. She said she shared the video. Thank you. Nothing's going to change. My wife always quotes, I forget who it is, I think Dwyer said, in order for there to be change, you have to make change happen. Change is going to happen on its own. Change only happens when you're ready to make a change. You want 2017 to be different than 2016? Well, you got to do some things different than you did in 2016. Sitting back, smiling, letting things happen to you ain't going to make no change happen. Acting the same way, doing the same things, thinking the same way, remaining complacent, procrastinating, won't get nothing done. Waiting for somebody else to fight your battle for you, won't get nothing done. Waiting for folks' attitudes to change, won't get nothing done. Waiting for folks' heart to change, won't get nothing done. Waiting everybody out and hoping for the best, praying for the rest, won't get nothing done. You want something done, then do it. Get it done. Get together and you'll get it done quicker. Get more folks and you'll get it done even quicker. Well, dear hearts, that's all I got to say this afternoon. I invite you to come to my wife's program at 7 o'clock, is it, Teresa? My wife's program at 7 o'clock. You can go to her page, Teresa Jeanette Scott, on Facebook. For all the times, you can go to my page too, Gerald Yeshua K.R. Scott. Find, most of you are members of my page and her page as well. Go to our pages. You'll find the pertinent information. She'll be on tonight. And we invite you to come back to see us on Monday for another episode of Chatting with the Rev. Until then, be blessed and keep your eyes on the prize. Because the change will come on you when you're ready to make the change. My cousin Lisa, I'm leaving with this. She says, time for radical action is now.